Go out into your grandfather's garage or down into the basement workshop. In the corner, there's probably an old heavy wooden toolbox, or maybe just a pile of tools on a dusty workbench. You see a heavy cast iron hand plane, dark with age and covered in a fine layer of rust. You see a handsaw with an ornate wooden handle. Your first thought is almost certainly this is just old obsolete junk. I can go to Home Depot right now and buy a brand new plane for $20. These tools seem like relics, replaced by the convenience and speed of modern power tools. But before you dismiss that rusty metal as worthless, you need to understand what you might be looking at. What if that old tool was forged over a century ago? From a quality of American steel, and with a level of precision craftsmanship that is almost impossible to find today? What if that single heavy hand plane is a rare, highly collectible model that woodworkers and collectors would pay hundreds or even thousands of dollars for? Today on Treasure Hunters, we are resharpening our focus and cutting through the rust to uncover the incredible value and history of vintage American hand tools. So, you've found a rusty old tool. How do you tell if it's a priceless piece of industrial history or a cheap knockoff? The value is written in the details: the metal, the wood, the patents, and the name stamped into it. First, and most importantly, is the maker's mark, or the brand. Just like in any collectible field, the brand is crucial. In the world of American tools, there are giants. The undisputed king, especially for woodworking planes, is the Stanley Rule and Level Company of New Britain, Connecticut. For over a century, they set the standard. For handsaws, the legendary name is Disston. A Henry Disston & Sons saw was considered the finest in the world. Other brands like Keen Kutter or Winchester didn't always make their own tools, but they contracted with top-tier makers and put their own respected brand on them, creating a line of high-quality, collectible hardware. Seeing one of these names is your first sign that you have something worth investigating. Second, you have to understand the concept of a type study to date the tool. This is the core of serious tool collecting. Best example is with Stanley planes. Dedicated researchers have spent decades documenting every tiny change Stanley made to their tools year after year. The shape of the adjustment knob, the style of the logo on the blade, specific patent dates stamped into the body. All these details allow a collector to pinpoint a tool's exact manufacturing period, known as its type. A Type 1 Stanley Bailey plane from the late 1860s is one of the rarest and most valuable tools in the world. Being able to identify a plane as, say, a Type 11 from just before World War I makes it far more valuable than a Type 20 from the 1960s. This forensic-like attention to detail is what separates the casual user from the mysterious collector. Third is the quality of the materials, which is a huge indicator of age and value. You have to look at the steel. Old American tool makers used high-carbon steel for their blades and cutters. This steel is often much harder and holds a razor-sharp edge for far longer than the softer steel used in many modern, mass-produced tools. Collectors and users prize this vintage steel. You also have to look at the wood. On high-end tools made before the 1940s, especially Stanley planes, the handles and the front knobs were often made from exotic Brazilian rosewood. This is a dense, beautifully grained tropical hardwood. Later, due to cost and availability, they switched to more common American hardwoods like beech or birch, and eventually to plastic. If you find a plane with the deep, dark, almost chocolate-colored grain of rosewood, you have an older, more valuable tool. And finally, look at the japanning. The protective black coating on the cast iron parts of a plane or other tool is a baked-on enamel. Finish called japanning. The condition of this finish is a key factor. A tool that retains 90% or more of its original japanning is in excellent condition. Finally, there's condition and completeness. Is the tool free of cracks in the metal, major rust pitting, and engraved initials from a previous owner? Are all the parts original, from the blade to the smallest screw? A complete, unmodified tool is always the goal. Now, let's talk about the legends. These are the tools that collectors dream of finding, the rare models and masterpieces that could be at the bottom of that old wooden chest. Grail number 1, the Stanley No. 1 smoothing plane. In the world of Stanley plane collecting, the No. 1 is the ultimate prize. The Stanley Bailey line of bench planes numbered 1 through 8 was the foundation of the company. The No. 1 was the smallest, at only about 5.5 inches long. Because of its tiny size, it was a very practical tool for everyday work, and was often seen as a novelty or a tool for fine detail. As a result, Stanley didn't produce or sell nearly as many of them as the more popular No. 4 or No. 5 sizes. This has made the No. 1 incredibly rare today. It is the one plane that every Stanley collector needs to complete their set, and the competition for them is fierce. Finding a complete, undamaged Stanley No. 1 regardless of its type is a major discovery, is lead worth over $1,000, and sometimes much more. Grail number 2, the Stanley Bedrock series. While the Bailey line was their standard, Stanley also produced a premium professional line of planes called the Bedrock series. These were the best of the best. They had a more robust design, where the frog had a perfectly flat, solid mating surface with the plane body, making it more stable and less prone to chatter. The earliest Bedrock planes from the late 1890s had rounded sides on the body, and these round side Bedrocks are incredibly sought after. A complete set of Bedrock planes is the sign of a truly serious collection. Grail number 3, the Disston No. 12 inches handsaw. Henry Disston and Sons of Philadelphia made some of the finest saws the world has ever seen. The No. 12 was one of their top-of-the-line models from the late 19th and early 20th centuries. It wasn't just a tool. It was a work of art. The saw's blade was made of extra-fine London spring steel and featured a beautiful, elaborate acid-etched design. But the real star was the handle, typically made from applewood. With intricate lambs, tongue carvings, and 5 heavy-duty brass saw nuts holding it together. It was a saw made for a master craftsman, and finding one today in good, usable condition is a rare treat. Grail number 4, Winchester brand tools. Everyone knows Winchester as a legendary gunmaker. But after World War I, with their factories scaled back from wartime production, Winchester needed to diversify. For a brief period, from about 1919 to the 1930s, they produced an entire line of high-quality tools, from handsaws and planes to hammers and wrenches. They were marketed with the slogan, "As good as the gun," because they were only made for a short time. Any tool with the Winchester brand stamped on it is highly collectible, not just by tool collectors, but by Winchester firearms collectors as well, creating a huge crossover demand. Okay, finding a Winchester plane might be tough. But there are countless other fantastic tools out there that are both valuable and much more likely to be found. The most common treasure is a pre-war Stanley Bailey plane. Any standard Bailey plane, from the small No. 3 smoother to the giant No. 8 jointer, that was made between the 1890s and the 1940s, is a high-quality collectible tool. These are the planes with rosewood handles and thick high-quality castings. They are far superior to modern, cheap hand planes and are always in demand by woodworkers. Also, look for vintage Craftsman tools. For decades, Sears Roebuck's Craftsman brand was a guarantee of quality. What many people don't know is that Sears didn't make their own tools. They contracted with other high-end manufacturers to produce them. Finding an early Craftsman tool, sometimes marked with a double circle logo, can mean you have a high-quality tool made by a famous maker in disguise. Don't overlook other items like high-quality wooden levels. Before modern bubble levels, beautiful levels were made from dense, stable hardwoods like mahogany or cherry, often with ornate brass plating. Beautiful old well-made level is a valuable decorative and functional item. You're in a garage and you've found an old tool that looks promising? Here's your quick guide. Step 1. Look for the name. The maker's mark is almost always stamped somewhere on the tool. On a plane, it's on the blade, and often on the cast iron body. On a saw, it's on the handle medallion and etched on the blade. Stanley, Disston, Keen, Kutter, and Winchester are the names you want to find. Step 2. Check for patent dates. This is a huge clue for dating. Look on the body of the tool, on the blade, or on adjustment levers for April for or specific patent dates. This helps you narrow down the manufacturing period and use a type study guide. Step 3. Examine the details for a type study. If you have a Stanley plane, this is where you become a detective. What is the logo on the blade? Is the lateral adjustment lever straight or twisted? Is the knob tall or short? Go online and find a Stanley plane type study. There are many excellent free guides. By comparing these small details, you can pinpoint the exact age of your plane. Step 4. Research the value. The best place to find real-world values is eBay. Search for the exact model number and filter your results by sold items. This will show you what people are actually paying. There are also very active online communities, like the Woodworking Hand Tools group on Facebook, where you can post photos and get expert opinions. These old tools are not just rusty pieces of metal. They are a direct physical link to a time of proud American craftsmanship and ingenuity. They are the tools that built our grandparents' homes, the furniture in our living rooms, and the country itself. They were made with a philosophy of quality and durability that is a rare commodity in our modern disposable world. So the next time you open that old wooden toolbox in the garage, look at what's inside with a new sense of respect and curiosity. Don't just see the rust, see the history. You might find that the tool that shaped the wood for your family's home is a valuable treasure, ready to be cleaned, sharpened, and put to use once again. If you enjoyed this trip into the American workshop, please hit that like button, subscribe,